Imagine not being able to read the paper because your hands were shaking. Imagine not being able to read newsprint as your world faded to black. The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. With your host, Lee Martin, and co-host, Florence Myers-McSwine.
We want to welcome you to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline show. So, Florence, how are you today?
I'm doing wonderful.
That is fantastic. You know, we have a lot of good information to share once again. But first of all, we want to talk about the National Federation of the Blind Newsline program. It's a free service that's offered to individuals that are blind. Some people would want to say visually impaired, those that are with certain forms of dyslexia, those that are deafblind now can utilize this free service. And it's a service where individuals can now access publications, newspapers. So over 460 different newspapers that individuals can read. Almost any newspaper across the country. We have your local publications. We have international publications. You can read China, Jerusalem, Russia, just a plethora of places that you can read. We also have what we call breaking news that individuals can read. All the way from the ABC to BBC to CNN to Huffington. Just a plethora of those. I think there's 17 of those breaking news. Students love to do that for research. And the way that you would go about accessing those, you want to share about that as well as the magazines, Florence?
I certainly can, Lee. Now, as far as accessing the newspapers and the magazines, we can access it various ways. We can use our landline phone, mobile phone, our computer, our Victor Reader Stream, which is the device that a blind, visually impaired community uses a lot, as well as the digital player from the Talking Book and Braille Library. Now, as far as magazines, there are over 70 magazines, and depending on your taste, Lee always tends to talk about the newspapers, and I love reading the newspapers, but I also love reading the magazines. And there's one magazine that recently came out that I really like because the children are really enjoying it. It's called Stone Soup. And Stone Soup invites these children to not only read, but also write. So write poetry and write their own little stories, and I'm really enjoying it as well. So Lee also tends to kind of, I don't know whether it's a hunch for me, but he always seems to want me to talk about AARP magazine for some reason. And so there is AARP magazine as well as Sports Illustrated, Shape magazines. There are so many magazines to choose from. So, Lee?
Yeah, so we just want you to watch the screen, listen to the commercials, grab that information, and it will greatly help you towards your own independence. So we will be coming back with our guest, so stay tuned.
I'm Danny Wayne Beamer, Program Manager of the Elder Blind Program at the Will Center in Terre Haute, Indiana. I introduced the NFB Newsline to seniors in 13 southwestern counties in Indiana. I also utilize the NFB Newsline for my radio station public affairs shows. The NFB Newsline. Experience it today.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
If you or someone you know is visually impaired or print challenged, the National Federation of the Blind has a resource you need.
Wow, I scored a touchdown when I found sports on NFB Newsline.
I enjoy reading TV guide listings on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
We are the nation's blind. We read NFB
It's free.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind Newsline, Indiana. We can have our guest today, Miss Edie McDonald, who is an audio describer. And Edie, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to get word out.
Yeah, we appreciate you coming on to the show. And, you know, we met you at the Community Health Plex.
Correct.
And we certainly appreciate you coming up and letting us know what you do and what's available to us out here in the community. And I know that our listeners and viewers would like to know more about this audio description that you do. So how did you get involved in audio description?
Well, I was working at a theater that's no longer open here in Indianapolis. It was called CTS, Christian Theological Seminary, and they decided to have a training, and they didn't have enough people, and one of the directors there said, "Oh, go in, we might need that." And I said, "Are you kidding?" And that's what I did, and I fell in love with it. It was really fun. It was hard. It was 3 days training. You have to be trained to be a describer. So I got that, and I've been doing it ever since. And that was like in the 80s.
So in the 80s, you just got interested in audio. Now, some of your background, you know, where did you get your formal education?
I'm a graduate of David Lipscomb University. It's in Nashville, Tennessee. I have a master's in education from Butler, and I've taught second grade and kindergarten. So 41 years of teaching, and I just retired this last May.
You had the children that are very fragile age. I love that.
Oh, I love them. They still like you, and they still want to hug you and all that. Good kids.
Yeah.
And then I've done theater for a really long time, both sides of theater. I love being in the background and being a dresser, and I do stage makeup. And so if you ever need a beard, let me know. Then I've acted on stage also, and I love to sing. So that's kind of my background.
Now, I would like to know, getting interested in audio description, did you know many blind individuals that really utilize that particular service prior to getting into that field?
I did not. I did not know of anyone who used that service. In fact, the theater was trying to get people to be interested, you know, in it, to make contact with people who are visually impaired. They don't even have to be blind, you know. Just sometimes figuring out what's going on stage if you have low vision is really difficult. And so we were trying to get more people in because we love theater, and we wanted people to have that experience also that couldn't see as well as we did. And so we tried doing that, and it's very difficult. It's very difficult to get the word out. But I just loved it because personally I love theater. It's like getting away and living there, you know, for a while, and then I wanted everybody else to have that chance too.
So as a blind person, and I enter into the theater, I know that when I have participated, I understand what's going on as long as there's audio. Mm-hmm. Now, you come in and describe, right?
Okay, what I do is I am in the light booth usually, and I have a live mic in front of me. You have a little thing, it's about the size of a personal calculator. It's a little receiver, and you have one earbud. You have one earbud in one ear, and you listen to the actual play with your other ear, and I'm talking in that little, in the earbud to you, and I try to stay off of spoken words and the songs. I try to stuff it in between things that are being said, because you need to hear the things that are being said too, but sometimes you can't. And certain plays are impossible, like Les Mis, because they're singing the whole show. So that makes it interesting. But as a consumer, you would call in for tickets and tell them you would like to use the service. And then they contact me and say that they need the service for that, for that show. And I prepare notes. And before the show starts, you would come in and you would get that. You'd say, I need the service of the audio describer, and they would get the unit for you, and you would go sit in your regular seats, and you would turn that on. And at the beginning, I usually start at 10 till the show starts, about 10 minutes before. And then I give you secret notes that nobody else gets. I tell you about when the show was first shown, or the history behind it, if it won any awards, just some background on the show. I also tell if there's any loud noises that come up during the show, like a gunshot, because that's very disturbing because you don't know it's coming. Sighted people can see the gun usually, although we get surprised sometimes too. And then try to tell you just as little as possible about that, because we want you to enjoy how the show flows just like we do. And then at intermission, 10 minutes before we start again on the second half, I'll give you, maybe talk about the people that are in the show and give you some notes on that. And then at the end of the show, you would return your receiver back to the people that gave it to you, usually at the desk out front. And sometimes I get to meet people, and that's what I like. I like to get the feedback, about that. The hard part about the description is I can't give you an opinion. So I just have to say what you're visually missing. I'm kind of like a play-by-play sports announcer for the theater.
Okay. So when you say that you can't give us, so then if I'm understanding it right, then for instance, if there is a gentleman sitting there, you cannot say it's a handsome man.
I can't. Even if he is, I can't. I just say, man sits.
Okay.
And at the beginning of the show, I've already told you the layout of what's on stage. And I'll say, man sits chair on left. Because I have to be quick and precise. Because I don't get to say, there's a young man. Now, young, I can tell you. There's a young man sitting in a light blue chair off to, I can't do that because I have to keep it in between the dialogue. The thing that really makes people mad is if I say the person died. I have a friend who watches all the time, and he came out one day and he had his hands on his hips, and he said, "Where are you?" And I said, "I'm right here." And he said, "You told me he's dead. Does anybody tell you in the show that somebody dies? Let me decide on my own."
But in the movie, in the play, is he, you can see that he's dead, right?
I say he lays down and he doesn't move again.
Okay.
Okay.
You decide on your own if he died.
Oh, really?
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. So you really do, you changed the demeanor of the show in your own mind.
Yes, and I try to use very descriptive verbs, and very descriptive words and adjectives that help you make a picture in your mind of what's happening.
I know that you said it kind of moves fast, the theater, and what you have to describe. Do you ever get a chance to describe the color of clothes that a person may have on, or if he has a beard, or to give us a better description of what's being, what the character looks like?
You hit on another main thing that I do. I describe what the character looks like. I describe when they change clothes. I'll try to get in now wearing a red shirt, or they have a scruffy beard, or they have a long beard, or their hair's sticking straight up, because those are clues that we see, like they came through the door dripping wet.
Well, so when we come back, maybe you can describe my my hair to me. And,
I can do that very quickly.
Okay. So we'll be right back with some more description and some more interesting conversation. So stay tuned.
I am a blind vendor, and one of the things that I truly miss is reading Vending Times magazine.
Hoosiers can hear Indiana magazines, circulars, national magazines, and information from across the globe. Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
It is a fantastic service.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
We are the nation's blind, and we read NFB Newsline.
As I travel the nation, I read NFB Newsline.
I live in Valparaiso, Indiana, and I listen to my local news on NFB Newsline.
As a student, I enjoy reading current events on NFB Newsline.
Learn more by calling 855-963-6476 or visit nfbnewsline-in.org.
Subscribe free to NFB Newsline today.
Welcome back to the National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana, and with our guest today, Miss Edie McDonald, who is an audio describer, and welcome back.
Thank you so much.
You've given us some great information so far, and I want to ask you, well, what's the cost of this?
It's very interesting. It's free for people who are visually impaired or have low sight or are indeed blind. It's no cost to you. All you have to do is buy the ticket to the show that you want to go to. The only time it might cost is if you are physically asking the describer to come and do it for you, like at a museum or something. But for shows where you go and see the show, it's free for you. So there's no extra cost. But if you would call me up and say, I'm going to the Getty Museum, I need you to describe for me personally, that would be like a contract job, you know, by itself. But I have never been asked to do that. So
That might be because of the lack of awareness of
exactly.
you know, such a great service. So in the Indianapolis area and surrounding counties, is there any particular theater that does this, you know, consistent?
Well, I'm very proud of the IRT, or Indiana Repertory Theater. They're the only theater in town that contracts audio describers for every show that they put on. And so they make that a mission on their part to have that available. Now, if you go to different shows, say a Broadway show comes through that you want to see, like Wicked. If you wanted that, you call up Broadway Across America, and they call me when that service is needed. I've audio described Jersey Boys and Riverdance, which is all dance, which is interesting to describe, and several other shows for them. But any place that you want to go to a show, the person that needs the service calls ahead and says, I need this service, and they need to keep asking places that they want to go to provide that service for them.
Now, I know we spoke a little bit off air, but most people might think we're talking about the differences between audio and sign language.
Correct. It's very funny. People ask all the time, oh, so you audio describe for the blind? And I go, no. No, I mean for the deaf, but it's for the blind. Deaf people or people who are deaf are using interpreters, which they watch the show and tell them what they think the show is about and what the people are saying. And we're called describers because we're not allowed to interpret one thing. We just say what is visually missing for you. on stage, like who leaves, who comes. If anything that moves the plot along is what I give, the information that I give you.
Okay, now you mentioned, you used the word we. So there are several audio describers?
There are some here in Indianapolis. IRT has 3 that they use. One is semi-retired, but there's 3 of us that take turns.
Okay, and the reason I ask that is, you know, sometimes when I'm using my phone, I'll switch over to the male voice, you know?
Oh, yeah.
So are there any men who are audio describers?
In fact, one at the theater at IRT is a male, and then 2 ladies, me and another lady. And it's interesting because people get their favorites, like you were talking about on your phone. People get their favorites, and it's very fun to talk to them after the show. One of my favorite responses is after the show, my friend came in and he said, "All right, where are you?" And I said, "Right here." And he said, "That's the best show I ever saw." And that meant a lot to me, because that meant he actually saw that show in his head.
Now, before you started audio describing, were you the type of person that would sit next to someone and kind of tell them what's going on the screen? Or
No, but you know, that's a lot of the happiness that's brought to anybody who gets the service. Usually they, you know, obviously they have to have somebody with them. And a lot of wives and a lot of husbands had said, "Oh, thank you so much," because they get in trouble because they're whispering all through the show to try to help the friend or their partner, you know, through the show, and people next to them or around them are like, "Ah, shh, be quiet," you know. And one of the wives said, "It's so exciting. I can just sit and watch the show. I don't have to try to keep saying things to my partner to try to help them enjoy the show as much as I am."
Now, what I'm hearing you say then is that I can go to the IRT by myself if I like, and be able to enjoy the show by myself.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can do it all on your own.
Well, no. If I, you know, oftentimes I find myself asking individuals, they see something and, you know, riding around or walking, and what is, you know, they say, well, you know, the statue over there, and, you know, they can't describe, you know. It takes a special skill to describe, doesn't it? You know, for people, you know, that can see. Some of them can't explain what they're looking at to tell you what they're looking at, and that
Exactly.
you know, that
Exactly.
That kinda,
It takes a certain talent to describe things so that people can picture them. I think my teaching small ones helps in that, because I describe things to them all the time, what it's like, and I happen to teach in a low-income area, and so I was always describing for them too. And I didn't realize that until lately, but I'm always telling them about, I love to travel. I've traveled a lot, and I try to tell them what it looks like and what it feels like, and I figured out, oh, I'm describing to these little kids, you know, so it's a pleasure to do it. It makes me happy. I want people to enjoy the things, you know, that they can see or they can't see, and I can help them see that.
you know, because one thing that alludes to me is when I could see, and I would see a movie or with a blind individual, and they would take their hands and try to feel a person's face to see what that face feels like or looks like, you know. And I still, to the day, after being blind for 19 years, still can't figure out how you're gonna touch a person's face to tell a person what they look like.
Yeah.
You know, so you could probably describe it to me, right?
Yes, I can.
Okay.
I can tell you that Florence has long, beautiful brown hair, dark brown, and it's in braids, and it's probably halfway down to her waist or more. She has beautiful brown eyes, pretty smile. She's wearing a red jacket with long sleeves and gold buttons with black centers. She's got on navy blue pants that go down to some rockin' red shoes that are high-heeled and shiny. She has on beautiful blue.
Now, I would hate for you to give my description, so we're just going to bypass that one, okay?
Oh, now. I'm talking about that pretty purple shirt.
You know, so, but, you know, it's very interesting that you do this because in the blind community, we have a program called ERA. And it provides glasses that allows agents from around the country to describe things to us, describe our clothing. If we need them to read something, they can read through the camera lens on the glasses.
And so so you're wearing the glasses, and it has a little camera in it.
Yes, it has a camera now in the bridge.
And then they give you feedback from
what
from the camera.
From the camera, which is connected to an iPhone, so to speak.
That's exciting.
Yes, I had to share that with you when I see you again. I didn't bring the glasses with me today, but I generally wear them, and the connectivity is great. But you know, there's a great tool and a describer such as yourself. That might be something you might want to be interested in.
See, you're teaching me today.
Well, we can teach, you know, the blind do lead the blind as well. So we're going to take a short pause and come back with the conclusion of our show today.
If you would like to get the audio description service, you need to ask when you call any venue. If you're calling to see the show, you call in and you tell them that you need audio description. My number is 317-258-3475. You can also call Indiana Repertory Theater and they can get the phone number from there. But the main thing is just ask. Ask and ask and ask wherever you go for audio description. If you want it, you call them and ask for audio description.
Well, we want to thank you for coming on to the show. It's very important information, and it's something that needs to be brought out and more awareness on this. So we hope that we get some more awareness going, and I'd like to come to one of the shows that you interpret.
I would love to have you.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, and thank you, listening and viewing audience. We'll see you next week.
The National Federation of the Blind, Newsline, Indiana. For more information, go to nfb-in.org or call 855-963-6476. That's 855-963-6476. The National Federation of the Blind encourages you to live the life you want.